Commander Atlas was motionless in the turret, the hiss of the turbine steady as a heartbeat. Through the gunner's thermal, the Russian tank was a white-hot silhouette, crawling across a hedgerow 2 kilometers out. Wind, mirage, target speed. The fire control computer ran its quiet calculus while a quadcopter, flown by a kid who used to race drones in peacetime, hovered invisibly above, streaming grid coordinates into the Abrams like a second set of eyes. The gunner's palm squeezed, the 120mm smoothbore gave a brutal shove, and an M829 dart ripped through the morning like a thrown thunderbolt. A heartbeat later, the T90's turret flashed and slumped, smoke boiling up as the crew bailed for their lives. The Abrams did not wait for applause. The driver backed them into the tree line they came from, a steel predator dissolving back into shadow. This is how American armor fights Russian steel in Ukraine. Not in parades or propaganda reels, but in ambush geometry, drone-fed precision, and shots that end arguments. You've seen flashy battlefield clips and loudly captioned claims. This is the full story. How the M1 Abrams arrived, how it actually fights, what it can and cannot do against Russian armor, and why Vladimir Putin's generals misread the rules of modern tank warfare. The legend of the Abrams didn't land in Ukraine as a museum piece. It rolled in with depleted uranium darts, a new doctrine, and crews that learned faster than the battlefield could kill them. The result isn't some Hollywood invincible tank, but a hard, ugly truth. When used right, the Abrams is a hunter. When used wrong, it becomes bait in a sky full of drones.
The United States will be sending 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine, the equivalent of 1 Ukrainian battalion. Secretary Austin has recommended this step because it will enhance the Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objective.
When the United States committed 31 M1A1 SA tanks, the rough equivalent of a Ukrainian battalion, it didn't just ship steel, it exported a way of fighting. The arrival was confirmed in late September 2023, and within weeks, Ukrainian crews who had trained in Germany took them forward, along with ammunition, spares, and the promise of more to come. Numbers were never the point, capability was. The Abrams brought stabilized thermals, fast digital fire control, and a cannon that could reach out and punch through Russian armor at ranges where older Soviet optics begin to guess. Washington sent something else just as controversial, 120mm depleted uranium rounds, the same long rod penetrators designed to turn Cold War Soviet tanks into scrap. Politically messy? Always. Tactically decisive? Often. Especially against T-72B3s and T-90Ms, relying on composite and reactive armor as a last argument. The Pentagon said it out loud in September 2023. DU ammunition was part of the package, and for once, the headline matched the battlefield need. But the Abrams that rolled into Ukraine were not the heaviest, most secretive variants America keeps at home. To speed delivery and protect classified armor technology, the US sent M1A1 SA models with exportable armor packages, still vicious, still modern, but without certain sensitive components. In effect, Washington traded a little invulnerability for a lot of urgency. Ukrainian crews compensated the way warriors always do. They adapted in metal. Photos soon showed M1s with welded E-mother bricks, anti-drone cope cages, and a spider web of nets intended to tangle or deflect FPV drones. The kind of field expedients that look ugly right up until they keep you alive. The first confirmed Abrams kill, tragically for the wrong side, came in late February 2024 near Avdiivka. Russian accounts crowed. Western outlets confirmed the loss, but noted the cause: a cheap kamikaze drone and follow-on fires, not a noble tank-on-tank duel. It was the ugly debut of a theme. Tanks on both sides were now more often hunted from above than flanked from the front. For the Abrams, the lesson was clear: survive the drones, or nothing else mattered. By April, US officials acknowledged what operators already knew. Abrams tanks were being pulled back from the most drone-saturated sectors, while tactics were rewritten. That wasn't cowardice, it was calculus. You don't leave irreplaceable assets under a sky full of cheap precision kamikazes without a plan to blind them or swat them. The fix wasn't to mothball tanks, It was to restack the playbook. More deception, more electronic warfare, more hard kill and soft kill anti-drone layers, and armor used as a silent hammer from covered positions, rather than as a parade spearhead. Here's the crucial reality check. The Abrams excels when its crew can see first, shoot first, and leave first. That's not bravado, it's doctrine. Ukrainian commanders who fought in them describe a machine that soaks damage better than Soviet designs, shrugs off near misses that would have cooked ammo racks in a T-72, and keeps moving after strikes that would have turned other turrets into man launchers. Yet they also warn with the clarity of experience that drones have made every exposed minute a coin toss. Survivability buys you a second chance, but only if you take it.
So how does an Abrams actually kill Russian armor on today's battlefield?
Start with the eyes. A small recon UAV goes up, quiet, expendable, and hungry for heat signatures. The drone team finds the Russian column creeping along a tree line. T-72 B3S with mine plows, a pair of T-80 BVMs, and the diva of the group, a T90M with fresh relict tiles and an attitude. The drone marks targets, feeds bearings. The Abrams platoon moves like a slingshot, using concealment and speed to reach a firing height. No dust plumes, no skyline silhouettes, just the turbine purr and the stink of kerosene. The gunner fixes the T90M first. The commander slews to the support tank. 2 darts out, 2 blossoms of bad news, and the column suddenly isn't a column anymore. Seconds later, the tanks are gone, the drone is masking, and Russian artillery is pounding coordinates where the Abrams used to be. That's the dance. Find, strike, vanish. Those depleted uranium darts matter here. Long rod penetrators like the M1A1 family defeat armor by force and physics, turning speed and density into a scalpel that doesn't care about slogans. They don't make the Abrams invulnerable, but they make Russian armor deeply uncomfortable at standoff ranges where older optics and gunnery wobble. And when the Russians cloak with smoke, the Abrams crew doesn't guess. Their thermals cut through the fog far better than the optics the Kremlin promised were world's best.
Т-90 прорыв лучший танк в мире. Вот сейчас можно сказать, что Т-90 прорыв лучший танк в мире. Он как только на позицию выходит.
Reality is not allergic to irony. Now for the part nobody wants to hear, but everybody needs to. The Abrams is not a magic shield. FPV drones and loitering munitions have pushed the vulnerability envelope to the top deck and the back deck, where even the best armor gets thin. Trade journals and battle damage studies all say the same thing. The roof is the new front armor, and EFP top attack warheads don't care how famous your tank is. This is why you see cages, nets, jammers, spoofers, anything to break that kill chain, even if it looks like a backyard barbecue grafted onto a war machine. It's inelegant. It's also the difference between mission continued and crew memorial. What about the iconic Russian T90M? On paper, it's a threat. Better sights, better armor, better gun than its T-72 ancestors. On the ground, it bleeds. Open source tallies of visually confirmed losses show triple-digit T-90M attrition across the war, with tanks killed by artillery, mines, missiles, and yes, other armoured vehicles. Its coping cages grew into full turtle shells as crews tried to survive a sky full of FPVs. That adaptation makes sense and makes them bigger, slower targets. A cruel trade. The Abrams, by contrast, leans into combined arms. It hunts with Bradleys, with infantry who kill drones on sight, with EW teams that jam or hijack kamikazes mid-run. It survives by not lingering, by shooting from defilade, by letting small UAVs aim its big gun. When armor commanders forget that and treat the M1 like a battering ram, the drones demand their tax. When they remember, Russian tank crews learn a familiar lesson. The first sign of an Abrams is the last thing you see. The campaign's next act added mass. In 2024 and 2025, Australia stepped off the sidelines and shipped 49 retired M1A1 Abrams to Ukraine.
49 of these Abrams tanks were promised by the Australian government back in October last year, and now more than half have finally arrived in Ukraine to help the country.
A massive boost that ensured the Abrams was more than a boutique capability. Logistics and approvals slowed the convoy, but by mid-2025, the transfers were moving, and by December, the Australians said the delivery was complete.
Abrams tanks donated by Australia are now fighting on the front lines for Ukraine in its war with Russia.
For a war defined by attrition, extra hulls aren't headlines, they're oxygen. If you want a single theme tying this Abrams story together, it's adaptation. Ukrainian engineers laced their M1s with local ERA and anti-drone rigs, and US advisors worked the playbook to minimize exposure. Fewer daylight road moves, more deception, more rapid displacement after every shot. The result was a battlefield where Abrams kills looked less like jousts and more like precision surgery performed under fire. Faster, meaner, and built around the assumption that the sky hates you. Let's talk about the day-to-day fight. On offense, Abrams platoons stalk likely avenues before a Russian push, then pop out at oblique angles for side shots that ERA can't shrug. On defense, they become mobile bunkers, smashing assault groups and then bounding back before counter-battery arrives. In urban edges, they are the angry anvil behind infantry hammers. Shoot, scoot, smoke, hide, repeat. The turbine's whoosh is still a tell, but in a battlefield alive with quadcopters, the loudest signature is data, not decibels. Keep your emissions low, your camouflage weird, and your decoys plentiful. And the drones start to waste their ammo on ghosts. It's not glamorous, but it's very, very effective.
You'll hear critics ask, if the Abrams is so good, why were some pulled back? Because modern armor isn't a gladiator sport, it's chess with murder. US and Ukrainian commanders paused to reset while they built better counter-drone stacks and refined M1 employment for a sky that punishes mass and rewards patience. After that reset came the return. M1s refielded where air defenses and EW bubbles were thickest, where concealment was plentiful, and where the payoff in dead Russian armor justified the risk. That's not retreat, that's respect for a new physics of war. There's also a reason Putin's propagandists obsess over every Abrams hit video. They understand what the tank symbolizes. It's not just a machine, it's a statement that Russia's armored core, once the nightmare of Europe, can be hunted by Western steel in Ukrainian hands. The symbolism bites harder when you remember that Russia has hemorrhaged tanks at a rate no modern army can sustain without dipping into museums. Open source numbers vary, but thousands of Russian tanks are gone, and among them many of the world's best T90Ms that were supposed to make the battlefield easy. The Abrams doesn't do all that killing, but it helps set the conditions that make it possible, by anchoring brigades, by smashing spearheads, by being the threat you must respect. And yet, the Abrams story in Ukraine is also a warning. Tanks live now under a permanent overhead threat. Trade journals and after-action reports argue for a future where armor integrates hard-kill top-attack interceptors, smarter signature management, and baked-in UAV integration. The US Army is already redesigning the Abrams family with those lessons in mind. Lighter, more digital, more survivable against drones and precision top attack. The tank isn't dying, it's molting. A quick word on crew survival, because it matters. When Ukrainian commanders compare the Abrams to legacy Soviet tanks, the verdict is stark. Western layout and ammunition isolation save lives. Business Insider documented crews surviving multiple FPV hits that would have doomed them in a carousel autoloader design. You can rebuild a tank, you cannot resurrect a crew. The Abrams keeps people alive to fight again tomorrow, and in a long war, that is the only metric that counts. So what did Putin not expect? He didn't expect a battlefield where cheap drones force grand armies to relearn humility. He didn't expect Ukrainian crews to take America's most famous tank and weld their own scars onto it until it fit the war like a glove. He didn't expect shots from 2 kilometers away, called in by a buzzing quadcopter, to turn his best armor into pyres, while the culprits drifted back into the trees like ghosts. He expected a parade of burning Western icons. Instead, he got a knife fight he can't script. The US decision to send Abrams in January 2023 broke a political logjam and forced a tempo change across Europe. Delivery by the fall, training pipelines in Germany, DU ammunition approved. Those weren't just logistics milestones,
They were signals. By the time the first M1s rumbled into Ukrainian hide sites, the story had already shifted from if to how, and how turned into ambush math, drone-fed gunnery, and a hunt that made Russian armour rethink its roots. Ask a Ukrainian Abrams driver what he thinks of the gas turbine, and he'll tell you it drinks like a rock star, but sprints like one too. Ask a commander about cope cages, and he'll deadpan that they're the worst fashion trend he's ever loved. Ask the gunner about the M1A1, and he'll grin, because nothing says we're done here like a long rod dart and an exit plume. War is brutal, but morale is a form of armour, and this crew wears it well. Strategically, the Abrams does three things for Ukraine. First, it forces Russia to allocate more drones, artillery, and anti-tank teams to any sector where M1s might appear. That's a resource drain the Kremlin can ill afford. Second, it anchors combined arms maneuvers that would otherwise stall under artillery and FPV pressure. With an Abrams platoon in the wings, infantry moves with a different kind of confidence. Third, it internationalizes the problem for Moscow, especially once Australia's 49 tanks joined the ecosystem, by proving that Western armour pipelines can refill Ukrainian fleets faster than Russia can invent new adjectives for cope cage. Will Abrams and their crews win the war by themselves? No. Wars at this scale are won by systems, not symbols. Air defences to thin the drone swarms, electronic warfare to blind them, counter-battery radars to cage Russian artillery, engineers to breach and mine, infantry to hold. And somewhere in that orchestra, the Abrams is the brass section. Loud, brash, impossible to ignore, and devastating when it hits the right notes at the right time. Which brings us back to that first scene. Tree line, thermal, a dart in flight. The truth is that most tank duels in Ukraine don't look like Kursk 1943. They look like ambushes that last 90 seconds. They look like Russian armour burning on dashcam footage while the shooter has already moved. They look like a silhouette on thermal, going suddenly, violently dim. That is the shape of modern armour combat, and inside it, the Abrams is very much alive. If you came for a myth, here's a better one. A machine that is only as good as the minds inside it. Ukrainian crews have turned the M1 from an American icon into a local instrument, tuned for a battlefield that changes every week. They've learned that the sky is always hunting, that the roof is a wound, and that the best shot is the one nobody hears coming. And they've learned, painfully and proudly, that sometimes surviving is the victory that buys the next chance to strike. So, did Putin expect this? Tanks that kill from cover and vanish, depleted uranium darts that don't care about slogans, a global supply chain that keeps the Abrams in the fight, a doctrine that treats every minute in the open as a bet you might not win. He expected a symbol he could break. Instead, he got a system he has to solve. The Abrams is not perfect, and it doesn't pretend to be. It is, however, exactly what Ukraine needed it to be. A hunter with a thick skin, a quick trigger, and a habit of surviving long enough to shoot again. And when the smoke clears and the hedgerow stops burning, there's one more truth worth saying out loud. In the age of drones, the tank is not dead. It just learned to look up, shoot sideways, and leave fast. And somewhere, right now, another M829 is already in the air.